Do the big four public accounting firms drug test? KPMG, PWC, Ernst and Young, and Deloitte, do they drug test? This has been a very popular question, as you can imagine, with marijuana being legalized in a lot of other states and continuing to do so. This has been a big question. Now, I'm going to give you a short answer and then a long answer because I hate YouTubers that ramble on. But one thing I will say right in the beginning is if you are worried about this, and I'm assuming you are if you're watching this video, I do suggest watching the entire video. And I very rarely say that in any of my videos. So now, short answer, probably not. I'm going to say there's a 99% chance you are not going to be drug tested. Long answer. Because you may be wondering, like, okay, that makes sense, but not too comforting. Like, what's with the 99%? Why not 100%? What's with that extra 1%? And it comes down to one thing, the client. Now, typically, when it comes to the big four, they're not going to drug test, right? They're not going to drug test you. That's nothing that you really have to worry about. So I want to say that to hopefully comfort you that if this is something that's on your mind, you don't really have to worry about the big four drug testing you. However, in unbelievably rare cases, take like auditing, for example. Let's say you're going to a client site, and this does happen. It's unbelievably rare, but it can happen. That let's say you go to a client site, you're auditing them, and the client says, hey, you know what? We just have a policy that anybody who works with us, whether you're working with us directly, or in this case, indirectly, as an auditor, for example, you have to be drug tested. Now, what happens here? Now, typically, in that situation, let's say it's a very high-profile client, maybe a very, very private client that requires security clearance, something like that. Sometimes the partner can negotiate, and they say, hey, you know what? We're not going to drug test. We're just auditing. We don't really work for your company per se. We're more just auditing your company. So sometimes the partner, maybe the senior manager, it's tough to say exactly. Every situation is a bit different. If the client does want drug testing, sometimes your higher-ups, so to speak, can talk them out of it. Being like, hey, look, we're just auditing. We're not really working for you, right? Yes, we're working kind of side by side with you in terms of you being our client that we're auditing, but not really. And sometimes they can talk the client out of it. Now, let's say, and we're going deeper down this rabbit hole, so to speak, let's say this is in worst case scenario land. Let's say you get put on a very, let's say, high profile client, and maybe there's some security clearance, maybe there's, I don't know, some stuff going on, really tough to say, right? And let's say you do find out, like, yes, unfortunately, this client, not only do they drug test all their employees, but they're requiring the auditors, just as an example, right? This could be different as well when it comes to client, or whatever kind of sector you're in when it comes to the big four. Let's say they do require drug testing for even the auditors, for example. Let's say your partner talks to them and they say, hey, sorry, you know what? We get it that maybe you're just auditing us, but we still require a drug test. At this point, what do? Right? This is like the worst case scenario. And again, this is unbelievably rare. So I do want to stress that. Unbelievably rare. You're way better off talking to your partner, senior manager, and, you know, I know this might not be the most comfortable or easy conversation to have. Let's say, I'm just making this up, let's say weed or marijuana is legalized in your state, and let's say you do partake, and let's say you're smoking or whatever, and then let's say you find out that for whatever reason you have a drug test coming up and there's no way to get out of it. You are way better off talking to your senior manager or your partner, or at least some higher up, and explaining the situation, being like, look, I'm consuming it legally or maybe illegally. You know, again, I'm just giving you the facts, you know, as you need to know them. You're partaking. I would talk to them first, because you're way better off talking to them and at least trying to figure out something. Can they push it back? Can they maybe try to argue again? Is there anything you can do, basically? You're way better off doing that than, like, say, taking the drug test and basically failing it, and that can cause some commotion. That can be a huge issue. Now, granted, you never know. Maybe the senior manager says, you know what? You just joined us. Like, let's say it's a new client. You just joined this client. You never know. Maybe they say, hey, you know what? Okay, the drug test is in a week. Given your situation, maybe it won't be out of your system. Maybe it will be. Again, this gets more to the whole science realm of metabolism and everything. But, you know, let's say they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe it doesn't look good. We're just going to put you on a different client. Like, maybe we'll just put you on a different client, right? It is tough to say how they're going to approach it, right? I mean, it's very, very, very tricky, to be honest. But at the end of the day, you're way better off having that conversation, as uncomfortable as it may be, as tricky as it may be, as nerve-wracking as it may be. You're way better off having that conversation with somebody within your team, to be honest, than failing that, and now the client comes back to the partner, back to the team itself saying, wait, one of your employees actually failed the drug test, and now now it will be a way worse conversation overall. So again, to recap, short answer, the Big Four doesn't really drug test at all. They don't at all. That's nothing you have to worry about. The only thing sometimes you do have to worry about in unbelievably rare cases is if a client themselves, as part of their clearance or whatever, as part of their policies, do require a drug test, and your partner, a senior manager or whatever, can't really talk them out of it, and you're forced to. And at the end of the day, if you are in this position, which again is super rare, but if you are in that position, talk to your higher-ups right away. Talk to them as quick as possible, because the last thing you do is take that drug test and fail it. That's going to cause you way more issues. Always talk to them. If you're in this worst-case scenario land, always talk to your higher-ups beforehand.